Male perpetrators are men just like the others. In order to understand this phenomenon, we must break the old stereotype which depicts male perpetrators as monsters out of any ordinary frame of normality. Let's start instead by identifying male perpetrators as men who enact violent behaviors towards women. Through this definition, we point out that violence is a conscious decision resulting from free will and not a condition, an illness, or even worse, a part of someone's nature. Let's consider this quote by Gandhi. Any attempt to impose your will on another is an act of violence. Violence, in a nutshell, happens when we force someone to behave against their will. This perspective helps us to point out the rationality of this behavior and consequently to dismantle another stereotype linked to male violence, that it is an action related to the inner male nature, or even worse, to an altered state like a raptus, a situation of anger or the result of the use of drugs. And now a question for you. Have you ever wondered why male perpetrators deliberately choose to enact violent behaviors against women? Well, it is not easy to answer, but in general terms, here is what we would like to share with you. Male perpetrators enact violent behaviors against women to gain some sort of benefit, economic benefit, physical benefit, sexual benefit, etc. By imposing their control and power on a woman, men replicate the status of privilege that still characterizes relations between genders in our society. It's important to point out that male perpetrators learn to behave like that. And often they are partially unaware of the fact that their behaviors are harmful. It is not a question of minimizing their responsibility, but we want to stress the importance of personal and cultural upbringing. In other words, the fact that a male student grew up in an environment where cleaning and cooking, for example, was a woman thing could be a risk factor, but not a cause for him to assume that her female colleague mate will clean for him, let's say, an apartment's shared space without a discussion and a mutual agreement first. This assumption and all the actions that came from it remain his exclusive choice and responsibility. Of course, there are plenty of men out there who strongly refuse any kind of discrimination towards women and other discriminated and marginalized groups, like for example the LGBTQI+ community, and that want to be part of the change towards respect, gender equality and inclusion. But how can they be part of the solution? Here are 3 ways in which, as men, we can realize this purpose. Number 1, put consent at the center of our relationships. Number 2, break the cycle of silent approval of gender-based violence in all its forms that happens between men. Number 3, ask for help when we are in pain. Let's dive into these points in the following video.